Lindell Smith, a first-term Halifax City Councilor, is going to speak to us about Halifax City Council's decision to remove the Cornwallis statue.
Hello, everybody. There is Mr. Cornwallis up on the screen. Clear as all the church people. I wasn't trained on this, so hopefully. So, a disclaimer as well. So I wasn't the lead on this file. Obviously, it's a council initiative, so we're all a team. But I have to give credit to our mayor, Mike Savage, and Councilor William Mason, who really took this and were champions of the whole issue and really worked hard to make this happen. So, on January 31st, Halifax Regional Council voted to put the controversial founder of Halifax in storage. And words of Mayor Mike Savage, we are all a product of our history, but we don't have to be a prisoner of it. This is not about rewriting history, it is about acknowledging that it is not cast in bronze. So our mayor agreed with it, he's a funny guy. To kind of create context, this is kind of the overarching picture. It's a very complex issue. So I'm just going to give you the overarching issue. I think it's important also to understand who was Edward Cornwallis. So in June 22nd, 1931, a bronze sculpture, large atop granite pedestal, was erected in Halifax. Edward Cornwallis was a military and political figure who was the founder of Halifax. So from 1749 to 1752, he was appointed by the British government as the governor of Nova Scotia. And was tasked to establish the British colony really to defend against the French defense. So research says one of his first priorities was to make peace. I'm going to repeat that. Research says that one of his first priorities, was to make peace with the Wabanaki Confederacy. Wabanaki Confederacy was made up of 5 principal nations: the Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, Passamaquoddy, Abenaki, and Penobscot. And by 1949, redrafted the 1925 treaty to create peace. So we know that there was a history of the Mi'kmaq people defending their land, which they had the right to do. So part of the task that was given to Mr. Cornwallis by the British Empire was to make sure that that defending didn't happen on his watch. So you can imagine that he had to put in place rules in strategic operations that would stop the Mi'kmaq people from defending their land. So one of the things he did was he banned the Mi'kmaq people from the peninsula of Nova Scotia. Now, help me understand how you ban someone from their land. But anyway, he did that, and obviously there was some kickback from the Mi'kmaq people. So he also then later offered a bounty for prisoners that were the warriors, the Mi'kmaq warriors, for their scalps. No bounty was collected, according to research. He later then issued a bounty in 1750 for Mi'kmaq women and children to hopefully capture bounties, and from research, there's no bounties that were captured. Later on, he issued a bounty for warriors and made the bounty a higher cost or higher price, and one scalp was rewarded from research. Some researchers say there was more, but you can only go by what some records say. It's hard to say. So saying that, for Nova Scotia Indigenous Mi'kmaq people, this statue came to symbolize the injustices they have suffered through a colonial period up to the present day. To many other Nova Scotians, this statue symbolizes the history of Nova Scotia and Halifax. So how do you make that? How do you bounce that conversation? And I'll speak about that in a minute. So in January 2012, Cornwallis Junior High School renamed itself Central Junior High School, understanding the importance of renaming this school in the name and spirit of reconciliation. So that's Mr. Cornwallis, their dapper guy. So, and I wasn't following my slides, so sorry about that. So let's talk about the overall picture. So let's talk about understanding empathy. with a government lens, which is very hard. So bear with me, please. Bear with me. So for government officials, it's easy to shrug off the feeling of the public. And why do I say that? So, we can say, well, that's their view. They're not the main representation, or, they don't know how government works, so they don't get it. They don't, it doesn't really make sense. Or some people just don't care. It's a mixed bag, and I think that's not the way government should operate. So it's sadly easy for us, and I'm going to put myself in the box, as elected officials, to not care about these issues that hold emotional value. The statue of Edward Cornwallis was one of them. So picture me as a statue. If you were to walk up to me, you'd see the statue, obviously. You might see something carved in, Jamie loves Ben, forever, and they broke up 2 weeks ago. You might see some bird poop or something, but I physically can't hit you or hurt you because I'm a statue. If I fall on you, that's a different story. But when you think about the statue of Edward Cornwallis, that statue commemorates to the Mi'kmaq people in our First Nation that there is an emotional aspect of commemorating this figure. So with saying that, it's not just about the physical. The emotional also has its place. So how do you build empathy with elected officials to be able to see the issue from both sides? First, it takes a willingness from the individual. It takes a willingness from the people to share and be open to that as well. Because there's always will be people who just don't understand. With thousands of letters, many conversations, protests, and many more avenues, this was an issue the government, as us, HRM, couldn't ignore. And I wish I could go into more, but I only got 5 minutes left, so we'll bring it down. So, the issue is very complex. So I will highlight 2 events. So one event was the protest that kind of really, I guess, broke this conversation. So the protest was, we had the community say, you need to remove the statue. We've been talking about this for too many years. Get it down. We don't care what you're going to do, just take it down. So we had 2 sides. We had one side of the Mi'kmaq warriors and the community who were saying, take it down. This is hurting us emotionally. But then you also had on that sign saying it will go down no matter what. But then we also had the other side of the conversation where this is our history, but you also had folks that if you will not take it down, then we will stop it no matter what we have to do. So, how do you deal with those conflicting conversations? So our mayor, with many conversations, decided that he was going to let the protests go ahead, but then cover up the statue with a tarp in spirit of, we are working on it, but we want you to recognize that we do hear you. And so this tarp was put on by city officials, which I think was a good step for us. Later on, this is another thing. So most of us as council attended a blanket exercise, and some of you might know what that is, some of you might not. I recommend looking into it. It's an amazing exercise and very important to understand the spirit of reconciliation. So some of us attended that, and that alone opened up our very conservative councilors to understand not just what the history around our Mi'kmaq heritage, but just views of what happens to people and what has happened to people in an emotional context. So that, those are 2 really important events that I think stemmed and allowed us to have this conversation. So I'm going to give you a quick timeline of just 1 year. So this is about a 10-year issue, but I'm going to give you the last year of just how complicated this issue was. So I was going to read right from the paper. So October 3rd, 2017, Regional Council adopts administrative order to establish Cornwallis Committee and requests names from the Assembly of Mi'kmaq Chiefs. The mayor writes to chiefs to request 6 names. November 20th, 2017 is received. The letter is received by the HRM Government Relations from clerk's office with the Assembly's nominees. December 1st, 2017, a potential issue was identified by staff working on the report with the names that were presented to us, and our CAO was briefed. December 4th, 2017, CAO briefs the mayor and deputy mayor. The CAO decides to informally approach Assembly Chief to hopefully ratify the issue. December 2017, before winter break, the CAO and mayor and deputy mayor sought advice on ways to addressing the issue called HRM Stack Research Options. Both HRM and the Assembly largely shut down due to holiday breaks, which made it very complicated because people were waiting, like, what are you going to do? So New Year comes January 10th. Council was aggrieved about the issue, and you can look it up. I can't share it, but you can look it up what the issue was. In the afternoon, the mayor and two staff met with the Assembly to say, this is what we decided. Can you help us deal with the issue? December 16th, Regional Council, the first meeting of 2018, we talked about it. The chiefs met. The chiefs pulled out of the committee the next day. And then on January 31st, Regional Council voted to put Cornwallis statute in storage, request the Assembly to return back to the committee. So when the chiefs pulled out, they also said that take the statute down. So they said we're not going to participate in your committee. We feel that this conversation has gone too long. Thank you for the offer. Take the statute down. Period. So we had a choice, and the choice was to take it down and continue this conversation. And thankfully, Regional Council decided to take the statute down. And that is the day when Mr. Cornwallis headed to storage. So all this to say, it is not easy. Decisions are difficult. The government cannot ignore our history of our regions and communities, but we also can't ignore the emotional aspect of our history and how that plays on our communities and our people that we represent. So the removal wasn't just in the spirit of reconciliation, it was in the spirit of listening to our people and realizing that government does care about what's happening in here, not just what's happening with there. And I really hope that if anyone else is dealing with similar issues, and even just in general terms, like when people are expressing feelings of trauma that might be historic, it's not just something that's made up. There are reasons why our communities are feeling certain ways that they are. But it goes without saying, holy moly, it's difficult. So, lots of collaboration is important. And, I will hopefully be able to answer questions if we have. If not, thank you so much. My time is up. Please wrap.